going on, everybody? Jared Sandler here with you, getting ready for our first edition of our Wednesday High-5. Now that baseball season is over, throughout the offseason, 3 times a week, I'm going to bring you my High-5, which will be 5 items of something. Wednesday is going to always be a bit of a mixed bag. Monday will usually deal with football, whether it's the Cowboys or the NFL, and then Friday might do some lists, still figuring that out. But going to bring you our Wednesday High-5. First of all, shout out Project Main Street, all the work that they do for ALS, led by my friend John Shambi. This is a hat you can get. Just go to pmsals.org, pmsals.org to help support all of their efforts. So shout out to Boog, who's done a great job throughout the baseball season doing Korean baseball and Major League Baseball and now the playoffs and all sorts of weird circumstances. All right, on Wednesday, especially now that we've got some Tuesday NFL games due to COVID, we'll always have our weekly NFL top 5. So I'm going to get to that in a second. At the end, we'll do our DFW wraparound. That will be the 5th item, which we kind of quick hit the 4 big sports teams with some individual nuggets and then some other stuff in between. But let's start with the NFL power rankings. Here are my top 5. And the way I do it, I don't allow myself to get totally influenced by one game. So I look at it, if 2 teams played 10 times, neutral site, who would win more often? It doesn't matter if one team's got 2 losses and the other team's undefeated. If I think the 2-loss team's better, then I'm going to put the 2-loss team ahead. It's not based on record. It's based on overall team ability. So still at the very top of my power rankings, the Kansas City Chiefs. I know they lost at home to the Raiders, but again, I think if the Chiefs played any other team in the NFL 10 times, if you want to say 9 times, so there can't be an even 5-5 split, I think the Chiefs would come out on top. I think they'd be favored against any team in the NFL. They're my number 1. One of the things that has impacted the Chiefs this year, Patrick Mahomes, for the most part, has been able to deal with it, not as much on Sunday. He's been getting pressured quite a bit. He's a magician, but even a magician runs out of tricks every once in a while. So that Kansas City offensive line definitely needs to step their game up. Number 2, the Baltimore Ravens. I know that they got walloped by the Chiefs, and I think that the difference between Kansas City and Baltimore isn't so stark. But one of the things with Baltimore, one of the things they do really well, their secondary is so good. We talked about this on Monday. Their secondary is really talented, and what it allows Wink Martindale, their defensive coordinator, to do to really bring a lot of pressure and mix up their pressure packages. Doesn't always have to bring more than 3 or bring more than 4, but when he does, he doesn't have to worry about the back end being compromised because the back 4 for Baltimore, really, really good, really talented, and that allows him some creativity. Still questions about the passing game. They're averaging less than 200 yards passing per game. Some of that's a product of how run heavy they are. Some of why they're so run heavy is because, they got to pick their spots in throwing the football, especially downfield. I think Lamar Jackson's made strides, but that still is something that I think people would identify as a challenge to them right now. Number 3, we're going to go with Green Bay. Now, they're one of 2 undefeated teams left. The reason I don't have them above Kansas City or Baltimore is because I don't think they're better than Kansas City or Baltimore, although they've looked great. And Aaron Rodgers, after a few down years of being good but not great, looks outstanding. He looks like MVP caliber Aaron Rodgers. And what's impressive is that in the past few years when his receivers have gotten hurt and he hasn't had a ton of depth. So when Devontae Adams has gone down, he has really struggled throwing to lesser caliber receivers. This year, Devontae Adams has missed some time and hasn't really bothered Aaron Rodgers. The production has been high level. He is just dropping dimes. Now, the injuries have been an issue. Devontae Adams, Allen Lazard, offensively, they've had some injuries on the defensive side. As we talk about, like that 49ers team last year, they were relatively healthy compared to the rest of the league. They're very healthy. Injuries do play a part. It is a little bit of a war of attrition, but right now Green Bay's been playing really well. The reason I have them ahead of Seattle, Seattle's my number 4. They're also undefeated. Seattle's defense just so bad. We're not used to saying that, but their defense is not very good at all. Russ is unbelievable, second best quarterback in the NFL, I think, behind Mahomes, just ahead of Lamar because of his ability to, be be versatile in the passing game and be so good at all levels. But that Seattle defense is not very good, even with Jamal Adams healthy, and he's hurt right now. Even with Jamal Adams healthy, they were not very good. So, I give a lot of love and props to Russ. That's why they're up at number 4. It's going to be tough for them to stay there, though, unless their defense starts to make some improvements. All right, 5 and 6 was tough for me. I left Buffalo out, and it doesn't have a ton to do with their loss yesterday against Tennessee. I still, what's weird about Buffalo is that their pass defense has been so good the last few years. They haven't been as good this year. It seems like they're getting exposed. I don't know if it's because their offense is way more productive, and sometimes when a team scores more points, you don't feel the need to be as aggressive. Maybe you're not playing prevent defense by any means, but you're keeping things in front of you. Whatever the case, I have Buffalo just outside, but if you were to do this tomorrow, maybe I'd put them ahead of Pittsburgh. Right now, though, I have Pittsburgh at number 5. Defensively, I actually don't think that they have been as good as people anticipated. Some of that is injury related, but that's a really, really special defense. And I just love offensively. I mean, again, it seems like receivers just pop up, in Pittsburgh. But in addition to Juju Smith-Schuster, we saw this past week Chase Claypool with a monster game. Deontay Johnson has been good for them. James Washington maybe isn't as good as people would have hoped when he came into the league, but he's starting to be productive. And then you got a good mix in the running game. James Conner's healthy and productive again. The question, can Big Ben throw it deep? Can he consistently throw it deep? The air yards are down for Big Ben. Injuries perhaps playing a part, age playing a part, but right now I have Pittsburgh just out of Buffalo. So my top 5, KC, Baltimore, Green Bay, Seattle, Pittsburgh, Buffalo, just barely outside. That's how we're going to kick off our Wednesday High-5 each week. All right, moving on. Topic number 2, we're going to stick with the NFL. Wide receivers, young wide receivers. We just mentioned Chase Claypool. Big game from him. Let's see if he can keep that up. Obviously, he burst on in a big way last week. It used to be that there were a lot of hurdles, a lot of challenges for young receivers to make immediate impacts. That, the thought would be maybe outside of one guy who just was so special, it didn't matter. Yeah, this guy's going to be okay this first year, but we really think year 2, year 3, once he gets the hang of it, he's going to be productive. And I think a lot of that was because college offense and NFL offense was so different. There were so many differences. And obviously the college secondary, the college defense is just not as talented. But I think some of the adjustment was getting used to NFL offenses. It doesn't seem to be the case anymore. Maybe these guys are just, more athletic and they're freaks more so today than they used to be, which that's possible. But I think that a lot of it has to do with how similar offenses are now at the college and NFL level. The NFL has adopted more of that college openness that, people used to think only worked in college, wouldn't work in the NFL. How about this? 7 of the top 20 in receiving yards are first or second year receivers in the entire NFL. 7 of the top 20 led by CeeDee Lamb, who is in the top 5. Think of the young rookie receivers, like top round talent who've been productive. CeeDee Lamb has been outstanding. Justin Jefferson for the Vikings has been really good. Henry Ruggs has been hurt, but when healthy, he's been able to make an immediate impact. T. Higgins is starting to really blossom in Cincinnati, especially with A.J. Green really not being much of a factor. He and Tyler Boyd are carrying the load. You got Jerry Jeudy, who's dealt with some health stuff, but when he was healthy, he was showing, hey, I'm going to be an impact right away. And then you got guys like Chase Claypool, who knows if he'll be able to keep it up, but it just seems like rookie receivers are able to make an impact immediately these days more often than they used to be. All right, item number 3, let's go to the NBA. LeBron wrapped up the 2020 season, 2019-2020 season with his 4th career title. The Lakers take down the Heat in 6 games. I think that it would have been listen, 6 games, the only thing that can happen beyond 6 is 7 games, but I think we would have seen some closer games if it weren't for the injuries to Bam and Goran. I do think the Heat were a really talented team, maybe more so than people are giving them credit for. But LeBron's just unbelievable. I mean, 17th year, he's an MVP caliber player. Whether he should have won or not this year, is to be debated. Just the fact that it's like, hey, man, did LeBron get robbed by not getting the MVP in year 17? It's pretty remarkable. The one thing that stands out to me is, and this is not a comparison. I'm not trying to bring up the LeBron MJ argument, but one of the things that the greats like MJ and Magic and Kareem and Bill Russell and the guys, Larry Bird, that era, they didn't deal with social media. Every single step LeBron has taken, every move he's made, probably since he was a junior or senior in high school, has been hyper analyzed and hyper scrutinized. Remember, MJ walked away from basketball because the attention and the pressure, not like the game pressure of hitting a big shot, but just the, people caving in around him just became a lot, became too much. LeBron's had that times a million. The impact of social media is exhausting for these guys. That's not a knock on MJ. I just think that's something that doesn't get discussed as much when we try and put together LeBron's career and the accomplishments. Social media wears on people. Every single thing LeBron does is criticized, analyzed, whatever. Here he is, year 17, getting ready for year 18, and he's leading a team that's already the betting favorites to win the title in the upcoming season. It's really impressive. Now, the MJ LeBron debate. Sports are fun for a lot of reasons. Debates are a big part of that. As fans, we love debating. Instead of adding fuel to the MJ LeBron debate, I'm just curious, what's the next best debate amongst players in any sport? Tiger Jack, Nadal Federer, Messi Ronaldo, Brady Manning, Brady Rogers, Brady Montana, Brady fill in the blank. What are some of those debates that it seems like LeBron MJ's overshadowed all of them. What are the other ones? What are the other debates that Trout Mantle? I'm just curious. I think there's some really interesting ones. I'm curious your thoughts on that. All right, item number 4, the Major League Baseball playoffs. We're in the middle of the CS round, the NL and ALCS. The Dodgers are down 2-0 to the Braves. The Rays are up 3-0 to the Astros. Shame. It's really tough watching the Astros lose. It just hurts my heart. Seeing Jose Altuve struggle, it hurts. It really hurts. One of the interesting differences this year in the playoffs compared to other years, other than the bubble, other than neutral sites, the DS and CS rounds playing games consecutively with no off days. The DS rounds are played, if needed to go to a 5th game, 5 games in 5 days. The CS will be the same thing. If it's going to be a 7-game series, 7 games in 7 days. That changes the dynamic. And I'm curious, do you like this more or less? In the typical format where you have a day off for travel days, it allows you to ride your best players even more because your relievers get that day off. You don't have any question about when you're going to use a reliever. Your best relievers are basically going to pitch every game unless it's like a blowout, because that built-in off day after the first 2 and then the next set of games at the other team's venue, that allows you the ability to ride them. When you have games consecutively, and the other side of that too, by the way, you can bring back a starting pitcher maybe for game 4 on 3 days rest. Whereas now, if you bring a starting pitcher back in game 4, it'll be on 2 days rest. You can't do that. And the domino effect of how you use your starting pitchers. The reward of this year's setup is depth. Bullpen depth is huge. Your last reliever is important, whereas your last reliever, in past years just wasn't as significant. Your 4th and for some teams, your 5th starter is super important. Or if you look at teams like the Braves and the Dodgers, and we see the Rays do this, they'll throw in bullpen games. We never used to see that. That was like, oh man, they're in trouble, bullpen game. We don't look at it that way. But if you're going to have bullpen games a part of your mix, you've got to have the depth to be able to do that. I'm curious which you prefer. Would you rather the best of the best be the ones relied upon in the playoffs, or would you rather a setup that more replicates the regular season where there are, not nearly as many off days as you get, relatively speaking, within, the old format? So Which would you prefer? I'm curious. All right, last thing, our DFW whip around here. Let's start with the Cowboys. A lot of talk about riding Ezekiel Elliott. That's what the Cowboys need to do. Listen, maybe Zeke answers the challenge. Maybe he steps up. We know that athletes have this ability sometimes when called upon to do so. I just want to throw this out there. 2020 Zeke is not 2016 Zeke. It's not 2018 Zeke. He's averaging barely over 4 yards a carry and wasn't there prior to last week's game. The only other time in his career he's been this bad was 2017 when he was dealing with the suspension and all that outside noise. I would just contend that, Zeke is not the same guy. I think Zeke is still a really good running back. I don't think he's a top 5 running back in the NFL, and maybe I'll be proven wrong. But the explosion isn't there. The elusiveness isn't there. He's going to get you the yards that are there. All right. If there are 3 yards to be had, he'll get you those 3 yards. If there's an opportunity for 4 yards, he'll get you 4 yards. He'll turn maybe no gain into 1 yard or 2 yards, which that's significant. He's only had one run over 15 yards. The big playability just isn't there. And it's tough these days with the allure of the big plays in the passing game, especially the Cowboys receivers. There's not as much. I think data has shown that the 4 yard run just, it doesn't do it. It used to be, hey, 4 yards, that's great. You can average 4 yards a carry. We'll take it. That's really good. I think we see now with numbers that, if you're just getting 4 yards, obviously there's a purpose, for maybe keeping the defense honest and some of those factors, but I want to see more out of Zeke. If they're going to ride him, if they're really going to shift their offensive philosophy to put more of the weight on Zeke, got to get more out of Zeke. On the Mavs side, the offseason's here. I don't think it's going to be a super exciting offseason in terms of adding this player, making a trade for that player. It's going to be next offseason when basically anyone who's ever made an all-star team becomes a free agent. Not quite, but the free agent class is tremendous, and that's the one the Mavs are going to try and position themselves to really attack and add that next big stud. Did a video with Bobby Carell on this. You can check the channel to hear some of his thoughts. Here's where the Mavs can really make things interesting, maybe make an impact. They got two really good picks in the draft, not great picks. Number 18, top 20 pick. There's a chance to add a good role player there. And then the 31st pick, a lot of people covet that first pick of the second round because you don't have the same sort of financial and length commitments to that player you draft. You got more flexibility, but the Mavs have opportunities to get better. That's probably where their more exciting offseason movement might be. The other thing is there are a lot of guys who, because of teams not having a ton of money to spend, I think they're only Bobby mentioned yesterday, a handful of teams truly with cap space. That means the market's not going to be as robust. Maybe you have guys who want to re-enter the market next year when teams are preparing for having a lot of cap space because of that free agent class. And so you could see some good players maybe take 1-year deals and just go to an environment they think could help them. And Luka Doncic is the type of guy that could allure a player like that. We've seen what he's done for Tim Hardaway. We've seen what he did this year for Seth Curry. He makes players better. And if you're going to re-enter the market looking for a payday after 1 year, playing with a guy like Luka might not be a bad idea. Speaking of the offseason, the Stars offseason already full of moves, bringing back Anton Hudobin. The Stars also signed Roddick Fox to a 5-year deal for north of $16 million, which in the NHL, that's a lot of money. I'm not so sure that I'm vibing with all of the Stars offseason moves. They're not a team that's got a ton of cap flexibility. They're paying 2 goalies, around $9 million or so. That's a lot. You're paying Jamie Benn and Tyler Seguin a lot of money, and they're not producing at the level they used to. I know that Jamie had a good postseason, but you also have to consider the 82 games that get you to the postseason. And so you still got to pay guys like Gurianov and Rope Hintz and eventually Miro. And I'm a little concerned, but I'll say this. This is not the first time I've kind of scratched my head at moves made by Jim Nill in the Stars front office, and it's obviously paid off. So, they know what they're doing, but I do worry about the Stars' financial flexibility moving forward. On the Rangers side, a lot of the hope, a lot of the thoughts are towards the future. John Morosi had a tweet the other day. There are a lot of guys that, why they haven't played a full year of minor league baseball, or maybe they haven't even come stateside, who the Rangers think can be really special. One of those guys, Ronald Acuna's little brother, Luis Angel Acuna, and Ronald the other day said, hey, this guy's better than me. He's 18 years old. He's going to be better than me. And that'd be pretty exciting because Ronald Acuna Jr., one of the bright young stars in Major League Baseball, just because he said it, doesn't guarantee anything. But Luis Angel Acuna kind of represents a group of young players in the Rangers system that maybe haven't gotten the publicity or credit that they'll eventually earn or deserve because they haven't either played in full season minor league baseball or even come stateside to play minor league baseball in the case of Acuna. There you go. That's our high five for Wednesday. We'll be back Friday for more. We've got Just Hangins coming up later today on the channel. Plus, we got another episode of the Just a Sec podcast series. So be sure to check out the channel. We'll also have a conversation with David Murphy tomorrow to have more of a Rangers baseball dialogue. So always stuff being added to the channel. Thanks so much for hanging out with us here today. Have a great rest of your day. Take care.